Hello, Scorpio risings, you beautiful creatures. How are you doing? We just entered Scorpio season, and I am very, very excited to see what the month of November has in store for all of us. And I say us because I am a Scorpio rising. Now, the month has a lot of moving parts, so I will do my best to make the messages clear, concise, and to try and stay on track. You know me, I can get a little long-winded, but as always, we are going to get an overall energy theme. I am going to pull tarot for each week. I am going to go over those tarot messages as well as the astrological transits taking place during those weeks, and then we will wrap it up, get additional oracle and tarot guidance. So let's see. What do Scorpio risings need to know? This reading is for Scorpio risings. What do they need to know for the month of November? Know that you are loved. This is the new moon in Libra, and we just had a new moon in Libra. And I'm trying to bend these cards back. They got bent somehow. We just had the new moon in Libra, right? So this is new moon energy. We do have a new moon within your sign, within our sign this month towards the third week of the month. But this is know that you are loved. And I feel like I've been seeing a big theme with Scorpio energy is that it's this big push to Scorpio energy can be very introverted, right? It's more in the shadows. It feels more comfortable in shadows. It feels more comfortable in the dark. But it's like this big push because we are the alchemist. It is this big push to put us more out in the open. But this brings up a lot of fear of our depth, our intensity being too much for other people, right? So I've been seeing that theme come up quite a bit. And Scorpio season's only been in for like maybe 48 hours. So let's see what the tarot has to say. But that could be what this is for this month. Like, know that you're loved, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you think, regardless of where your mind is at, where your heart is at, what's going on. Just know that you are divinely loved. The star, isn't that lovely? So here in this first week is the star. The star represents kind of like feeling connected to the future, feeling hopeful for the future, or having faith in the future, or even just like that divinely guided path. This is the week that Mars is going to be moving into the sign of Sagittarius. Mars is the planet of action, desire, aggression, assertion. It's really kind of like the engine behind it within the car, right? It's the horsepower within the car. And so Sagittarius sits in the second house. The second house governs finances, financial opportunity, financial investments, self-worth, and your value systems, like your value, your belief systems around what it is that you value, right? So it could be that you are feeling much more hopeful, maybe even much more connected to the future here in this first week. We will also be experiencing, that's on the 4th, on the 5th, we will be experiencing a full moon within the sign of Taurus. So full moons are a buildup of energy. They are a culmination, and the light of the moon is illuminating things that need to be seen. And for us, Taurus sits in the 7th house. This is the house of long-term commitment. This is the house of marriage contracts, business contracts, and like I said, just long-term commitment, even really long-term investment, especially with Taurus sitting there. Like, you want to know that what you're investing your resources mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually into is going to pay off in the end, right? Again, whether that is a relationship, whether that is a business partnership, or even a contract, you want to know that that investment is going to pay off long term. So with that full moon, it could really, it almost feels like a weight is being lifted, and it's going to allow things to feel more hopeful. Like, you're going to feel more hopeful around like your future. Venus is moving into the sign, is into your first house. So you could be feeling very loved, feeling very good about yourself with Venus moving into your first house. That first house is your house of self. So it is how we view the world, and it is also how people view us. So it's like their first impression of us. So when Venus moves into the house, if you're looking to get your hair cut, if you are looking to get any cosmetic things done, buy a new outfit, that is the transit to do it. Um, but ultimately, it could be that it just, with Venus being there, it just generates a lot of people to you, maybe attracts a lot of people to you, maybe attracts more attention than what you're accustomed to. But regardless, it's going to dip into this feeling very hopeful and optimistic. At the end of that week, on the 8th, Uranus will be retrograding to the 0 degree of Gemini, which means it's going to be transiting back into the sign of Taurus within the next few days after that. So somewhere around the 8th to like the 10th or the 11th, Uranus is going to be hovering at that 0 degree. 0 degree means infinite possibility. So instead, it's going to be going from your 8th house to your 7th house, right? And this is going to be having us revisit themes of long-term relationships, long-term commitments, really revisiting how those things have changed our lives, and kind of, I think, maybe really ask is, are we still committed to that? Are we still committed to that journey? Here in the second week, let's see. Stop it. Stop it. The Magician. Oh, yes. 2 major arcana right out of the gate. That's a big month. First 2 weeks right out of the gate. Big deals. Feeling very positive about your ability to create your own future. Feeling very positive about your ability to manifest the things that you're really wanting for yourself, right? Because that's what the Magician is. The Magician is manifestation. It is about creation, but it is also recognizing that we are the magician. I create my reality. I do that with my thoughts. I do that with my desire. I do that with my action, and I do that with my emotions. Every part of me, in some way, shape, or form, creates that reality, which is why it is so important to have all of those energies in synergy, right? We want to have all of those things kind of blending and flowing together so that you can create your reality. This is the week on the 9th that Mercury will station retrograde within the sign of Sagittarius. So again, Sagittarius, your financial house, this is one of your money houses. And Mercury going direct could create some stalls, but that's why this is here. The Magician is here, is to remind you, no. Just because things are slowing down or things are stalled, or you're having to reevaluate something, you create your reality. So how you choose to look at this situation determines how it unfolds, right? We will also experience Jupiter's retrograde on the 11th. Jupiter is currently sitting within the sign of Cancer. Cancer is sitting in your 9th house. So your emotional attachments and your sense of emotional safety is really what helps you expand. When you feel emotionally safe, you're able to expand your worldview because you feel safe to do so, right? Jupiter expands on anything it touches, for better or for worse. So if there are unhealthy attachments to the worldview, then Jupiter is going to expand on that. If there are healthier attachments or healthy relationships, if you're feeling safe, and when I say worldview, I mean the 9th house encompasses expansion through exploration. This is the 9th house. This is the house of higher learning. This is philosophical, spiritual, religious beliefs, long distance travel, culture, like learning other cultures. So whether you are expanding through self-exploration, like going within and really learning about yourself, or whether you are expanding by experiencing the world around you and learning more about the world around you, you're expanding in some way. So Jupiter actually being in this house is a really incredible thing, and it's a really incredible opportunity. And the ninth house is a very spiritual house because it governs things like philosophical and spiritual belief systems. So with Jupiter being here, it can really remind you, or that retrograde energy, it's like, I feel like it's really going to call on you to tap into that knowing that you were the magician itself, right? Here in the third week, the King of Wands in reverse. Okay, so the King of Wands in reverse can represent either someone around us or us, someone who is tired, someone who is feeling very frustrated, maybe a little prone to outbursts. This is the week of the new moon in our sign, right? There's a new moon happening in the first house. Again, the first house is our sense of self. So there's a new opportunity here, probably to know that we are loved, right? But the King of Wands has a hard time like maintaining his boundaries, has a hard time like keeping his word. He has a hard time being the leader that he claims he wants to be, right? This can also represent someone who is around you, possibly a male or a very dominant energy around you, who is probably, again, very stressed out, very tired, and probably prone to emotional, angry outbursts. So again, this is the week of the new moon within our sign, and it's probably, again, it's a new moon to recognize that we are loved, because Venus is still sitting in that house. Venus is still sitting there. Whereas, let's see. No, I don't think, I was looking to see if the new moon and Venus would be making a conjunction, if they would be sitting very close and having a very lovely conversation. But I really don't. I don't think that Venus is going to be close enough to this new moon, because this new moon is happening at the 28th degree. But the thing about this degree is that it is a Cancer degree. And like I said, Cancer degrees have a lot to do with emotional safety. They have a lot to do with emotional attachment, and just making things feel very, very big, right? So for us, it could be that the new moon, it's almost like it's triggering our discipline. That's kind of what this feels like. Like, we are tired, we are frustrated, we are exhausted. Are we able to think before we speak? Are we able to not fall into old habits and maintain our sense of self and maintain that discipline that's going to allow us to move through this very uncomfortable energy, right? That's kind of what this feels like. This is also the week that we will have the sun will move into Sagittarius. So it will be the end of our season, which is a real bummer. But Sag season is always fun. Let's see what the fourth week has to say. The Two of Pentacles. All right. So not bad. It looks like maybe the week of the new moon, for right now, is the only week that's going to give us some trouble. The Two of Pentacles just means that you're trying to balance everything. You're trying to balance life, trying to balance relationships, trying to balance your health, your mental health, your self-development. You're really trying to balance all of these things. And it's really focusing on what your priorities are, right? What do I value? Because here, this is Pentacles. Pentacles has a lot to do with what you value. And it's really trying to balance everything, even though the emotional waters are very, very rocky. The emotional waters are very, very rocky. So you're really trying to find this sense of harmony and balance within the tangible world, even though emotionally you could be feeling very unsettled. This is the week that Mercury is going to go direct. I believe he is going to go direct within our sign, because at some point he retrogrades back into Scorpio energy. So he's going to go direct. This is, again, going to go direct within our first house. So we are going to get a chance to really, it's going to bring a lot of clarity to about, I think, who we are, right? Saturn is also, I feel like Saturn is playing a big deal right here with this card. Saturn is going direct after being retrograde. So it is currently retrograded into the sign of Pisces, which is sitting in our 5th house. This is our house of self-expression, creativity, children. And Saturn has a lot to do with structure. So when I think of Saturn in Pisces, I think about Venice. Venice is essentially a city that is sinking. And I heard somebody compare it to essentially Venice is just water being held together by like bricks and mortar, or it's bricks and mortar being held together by water, one or the other. But at high tide, there's like a good portion of the city goes like several inches underwater. People's homes go in like several inches underwater. Courtyards go several inches underwater because high tide comes in. So even though there is this sense of structure, the water is always going to kind of overtake it, and there's really nothing Saturn can do, and that's very uncomfortable. So when it comes to things like our children, when it comes to maybe one-off love affairs, when it comes to things like creativity, right, and our hobbies and the things that we really enjoy doing, there's like this kind of we're trying to maintain a sense of structure, but there's this consistent wave that is overtaking it. So Saturn is going to be stationing direct, thank goodness. And it's going to be stationing direct at a later degree, so it will then be moving back into the sign of Aries shortly. Then this week, Venus is moving into, she's leaving our sign and she's moving into the sign of Sagittarius. But that's not always a bad thing, because Venus moving into our 2nd house of money, when she is the planet of love, money, beauty, and value, is never a bad thing, right? So it can really allow us to be like, okay, I'm feeling a lot more stable, but I'm still having to balance and juggle things. So let's see. So far, I'm not hating it. So far, I'm not hating the reading. The star here in the first week. The 9 of Wands, feeling very exhausted, constantly fighting battles, kind of got that guard up. And the 5 of Wands. Yeah, feeling like there's a lot of, you feel hopeful. You've kind of got your guard up because you're just having to, you're constantly encountering, it's like battle after battle, obstacle after obstacle. The 5 of Wands, the 5 of Wands represents competition. Like these 5 people, they've all got wands. Sorry, just hit the microphone. They've all got wands and they're all reaching for this fire at the top. They're all kind of fighting for that place at the top. And you're one of these people, feeling like you're constantly fighting for your place at the top, right? There's nothing wrong with healthy competition, as long as you can stay in that mindset of not letting it reflect upon who you are. I can never get ahead because of me. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm whatever the case may be. Right? So there really is this sense of optimism for the future. There's this sense of hope for the future. Even though you're feeling very, very tired, you kind of have this guard up, but you're not ready to give up that fight just yet. Right? So here in this first week, the full moon within the sign of Taurus, maybe having to, when it comes to business contracts, having to fight for that top spot, having to fight for a little bit of that attention, long-term commitments, fighting for that top spot, not giving up, feeling very hopeful, but very tired. Here in the second week, Death in reverse, and the King of Pentacles in reverse. Okay. Here in this second week with Mercury going direct, again, it's going to feel like there's a stall, especially with Uranus now retrograding back into the sign of Taurus. Here we have Taurus energy with the King of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like maybe there's an unhealthy work-life balance, very, very focused on the work-life balance, when really you're focused so much on the tangible world, like trying to control the tangible world, thinking that that's going to make a difference, when in reality, I think the shift that needs to occur, and again, remember, I'm talking to myself here, the shift that needs to occur, this change that is being resisted with death in reverse, is that you need to focus more on manifestation. Remember what I said here in the beginning. The magician recognizes that his desire being on one level, his emotions being on one level, his action being on one level, and his mind being, if all of these things are on the same level, he can harness that energy and create and make it like the tip of a sword, right? Or the tip of an arrow that hits that mark, that manifests that mark. I think you need to focus more on the metaphysical than you do on the physical, right? And I think here in this week, this death and rebirth, that's the change that needs to occur. That is the change that you have probably been avoiding, because Scorpio fixed signs have they want to control. I need to control this, because if we can control that outcome, it makes us feel emotionally safer, right? Scorpio and that Taurus axis has a lot to do with security, like tangible security. Scorpio is about emotional security. Taurus is about physical financial security, right? So I genuinely think here, Mercury going retrograde, Jupiter going retrograde, I think, especially Jupiter going retrograde within your ninth house of like higher learning, is asking you, I think, to really go back to that sense of like focusing on the metaphysical things, like law of attraction, law of vibration, the 7 hermetic laws, focusing more on those and manifesting and just kind of maintaining this vibration versus focusing on things within the tangible world. I hope that made sense. Here in the third week, the King of Wands in reverse, the 8 of Cups. Ooh. Okay. For some of you, this could mean you walking away from a relationship, or walking away from someone who literally just can't keep their temper under control. Can't keep their temper under control. So, because what is happening here, we have the 8 of Cups. So literally walking away from something, going on the kind of this spiritual journey. But also you've got 8 here. So there are 2 8s here. 8 represents personal growth. It represents personal attainment. 8 also represents the infinity symbol, right? The fact that energy is always flowing. What you give out or what you put out is what you get back. What you take in is also what you're putting out, right? So some of you may be choosing to walk away from someone in your life who is just emotionally very explosive, somebody who does not, their actions do not align with their words. Others of you, this is going to be more personal. This is you, right? If you're the one that's exhausted, if you're the one that is frustrated, you need to go on a sense of spiritual, like a spiritual quest, going within. And look, you're the 8th house. We rule the 8th house traditionally, right? So there's a lot, there are 8s happening. 1, 2, 3, 8, 8, 8. So there are 8s happening within this, especially the week of the new moon. It could be that the 8th house, Gemini, is what needs to be focused on. But ultimately, for some of you, I think if you're feeling very emotionally explosive, if you are feeling frustrated and exhausted, you need to walk away from whatever is consistently causing that and looking for that strength within. Knowing that if you put something down and walk away from it, you're going to be able to come back to it. right? Once you've kind of cooled out. Because if you're sitting in this place of frustration and anger, remember, what you put out is what you get back. So if you're putting out frustration and anger, guess what? You're going to get things back that mirror that or that cause more of that. So if that's how you're feeling, it is time for you to take a time out and to look for that strength within, because that's what this card here is. It is strength, remembering that you are the lion and the lion tamer. I feel like this has a lot to do with trying to emotionally regulate as well. You know what I mean? Going back to a state of emotional regulation on a consistent basis. Because we've got tired and exhausted here, tired and exhausted here. And if it's getting to the point where it's kind of causing an emotional outburst, that's when things need to stop and pause. So for some of you, you're going to actually be choosing to walk away from someone whose actions do not align with their words. You know what I mean? Someone who is just not, they don't stand true to their own convictions. Someone maybe you feel like you can't trust. Walking away and finding strength in your ability to know that that is the right choice. For others of you, this is going to be walking away from whatever is causing this frustration, whatever is causing this sense of exhaustion. Here in the last week, the Two of Pentacles. You know, and the Two of Pentacles is also about making a choice, right? One or the other. Do I have to choose one or the other? And trying to consistently find this balance between these two things, right? The Queen of Swords in reverse and the Five of Cups. So, you're trying to make a decision. What's more important to me right now? What is more important to me? Is it this? Like, which, again, Pentacles is about value. What do I value? My resources. Do I value my peace? Or do I value stability in this other thing, right? Which one do I value more? Because I've been trying to juggle them. I've been trying to keep the balance. But there's a lot of overthinking that's happening. There's a lot of overthinking that's happening with the Queen of Swords in reverse. Potentially a lot of people pleasing that's happening with the Queen of Swords in reverse. And it's leading to a lot of disappointment. It's leading to a lot of regret and frustration. So whether you choose to actively walk away from someone or something, recognize that you overthinking it is only going to lead to more disappointment. You overthinking it is only going to lead to more disappointment. But the Queen of Swords can be turned direct. She's actually quite logical. If you look at the facts of the situation without not as much emotion, if you look at it from a higher perspective, from a more unbiased or impartial perspective, you'll be able to maintain that sense of clarity and that sense of like vision, and things won't feel so disappointing. But if you allow yourself to overthink it, if you allow, and it can also be too, that you're toggling back and forth between making a decision. Like I kept doing this. Like you're the Queen of Swords. Again, she's Libra energy. Libras have the tendency to be indecisive because they want to maintain balance. And here we've got the new moon in Libra. Know that you are loved. Even if you have to make a hard choice, know that you're loved. Even if you choose to continue to try and maintain this balance, you are still loved regardless. Okay, but that's what this Two of Pentacles, making that choice, toggling back and forth. And the Queen of Swords, she's overthinking it to the point where she doesn't make a choice and she could end up feeling very disappointed. So again, I really feel like the advice that comes with that Queen of Swords, look at it from an impartial perspective. Look at it from that higher perspective. Look at it from a very logical perspective. And you'll, I think, gain the clarity that you really need to help you move through that moment. And it could be like she's doubting herself. Did I make the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? Going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You are loved, baby. You don't need to question that. Have faith. Here with the star. Have faith. Have faith in the future. Have faith that if you keep fighting for what it is that you want, that it is eventually going to come to fruition. Make necessary sacrifices. The King of Pentacles, he's very much about the material world. Very much about the material world. And it may mean that you have to sacrifice some time. It may mean that if you've been investing your time in a particular project or a particular investment relationship, and you have to divert your energy, you're going to have to make those sacrifices. But understand that you create the reality. That if you make those sacrifices, it doesn't change the value of who you are as a person. It doesn't change how much you are loved and valued. But you're going to have to make some necessary sacrifices, potentially financially. That is either going to be with your time by working more hours or putting in more effort, or it's going to be like really having to budget and really having to kind of nitpick things. Begin to explore self-exploration, going on this internal journey to recognize that the things you choose to walk away from, maybe they weren't as fulfilling as you thought they were, or to discover maybe what, because in the original 8 of Cups, it shows 8 cups, but there's a space for 1 cup that is missing. It's recognizing that some sacrifices are worth making if it means maintaining your sense of inner peace. So you really need to begin to explore your options by going within. Seek hidden treasure. Every time I see this card, it reminds me of, God, what is that daggone movie? The Soggy Bottom Boys. No, it's a Man of Constant Sorrow, I think, where they're in the movie theater and that one guy's like, don't seek the treasure. But that's what it makes me think of. But this is seek hidden treasure, meaning instead of overthinking it, try to find the silver lining through what is happening. Try to find it doesn't feel like focusing on toxic positivity. I don't think that that's what this is. It feels more like really tapping into that deep sense of faith and understanding that if this is the path you're having to take, that it is meant for a reason, that there is something that you need to learn on this path, or you're being diverted for your own good, right? So overall, it feels like a really decent month. It just feels like maybe there are a lot of hard lessons, probably stuff you're going to have to let control, like you're going to have to let go of. I do get the feeling that there needs to be a real focus on emotional regulation and maybe even things like breath work and meditation, right? Doing Reiki, things like that. But really focusing on coming back to that center so that you can kind of maintain this sense of higher perspective. So I truly hope that helped. I hope you guys have an incredible month, and we will see you next time.